So this time, continuing the theme of attacking without sacrificing, we'll take a look at a game that I played in the good old days in 2014 against Wojtaszek in the Tromsø Olympiads. It was the first serious match that Norway had against Poland, and looking at it, I had a rating of 28.77. Thinking, boy, I had a lot of rating back then, but it turns out I have almost as much now, so I guess that's a good sign. Anyway, Wojtaszek seems to be one of those players whom I do pretty well against. Others that come to mind are Elyanov, Gelfand. I think in general I enjoy playing these active positional players. I don't know how to describe all of them, but I don't know. Some people I just do well against, and not only do I win games, but they often seem to be fairly instructive as well. So anyway, I went e4, c5. Well, Wojtaszek always plays the knight off, so that was no huge surprise. And after knight c3, he went d6. And it was another 4 years before I would uncork d4 takes, knight c6, and queen d2 against him. The Greek freak variation, as it's sometimes called. But this time I had other plans. I remember I had a discussion with teammates and the coach of the Norwegian team before the game, and I asked them whether I should play something harmless or something bad. And they replied very clearly that I should play something bad. And so that's why I went for the closed Sicilian. Not an opening that I played much, but I felt that Wojtaszek is somebody who does not deal so well with these slow kingside attacks, and that's why I decided to go for this. And obviously the variation being bad is a bit of an overstatement, but it would also be an overstatement to say that White has any chances to fight for an advantage here. So all of this is pretty standard stuff, and I went bishop e3. The other main move is f4 followed by knight f3, but bishop e3 kind of keeps it more flexible. And he went e5 and knight h3. In going for this, I was inspired by games of Spassky, in which he put the knight on h3. And I have to admit that I still don't completely understand the points. I guess there's something about keeping the f-file open. And obviously now that we've already played bishop e3, then f4 doesn't make that much sense to do immediately, as after ef4 we would have to waste the tempo. While now we could comfortably take with the knight. And I think part of the reason why I wanted to play it is simply that I felt that it looks cool. Anyway, he went knight e7, f4, and knight d4. I guess the reason why he did castle is that he was a little bit apprehensive about doing that before I'd castle myself, so maybe I could go f5, it takes queen h5, and maybe castle queenside. Having said that, I think it's not very impressive objectively speaking. Maybe better is just to castle myself here, but I can understand that that's what he was thinking, and besides, knight d4 is also far from a bad move. I castled, and now he decided to castle himself. At any of these moments I could go f5, but I felt that it wasn't too convincing, so I wanted to to keep the tension myself. And this is a very typical close Sicilian plan. I want to keep the pieces on the board. Knight to d1, then c3, driving his beautifully posted knight away. He went bishop d7. I felt like he's playing a bit strangely here, because the plan of bishop d7 and queen c8 doesn't make a whole lot of sense, since I get time for knight d1 and knight f3, protecting the knight on h3. So maybe it made sense for him to do something else. What to suggest? It's not that simple. You could go for f5 at any point, but I understand that he probably doesn't want to do that. Part of the reason might be fe followed by bishop h6. And otherwise, a move that could be suggested is f6, trying to solidify the center a bit, preparing bishop e6. It should be noted that h6 is not on the cards really here, because it will be hanging after f5 or fe. Usually in these structures you want to play h6 to prepare bishop e6, but here I think f6 would be more reasonable. Anyway, bishop d7 is not that bad. Queen c8, not great, but I think maybe he he didn't really believe that I could just put my pieces all the way over here to on the edge of the board, but it's still part of the same idea of this slow king drift attack. And here he went for b5, which I really don't like at all. Sorry, knight c6, c3, and then he played b5, which I don't really like. I think it was more solid to play b6, then intending fe, de, keeping more central control. And here I remember I had several ideas, like to play knight g5 and then try to provoke, I don't know, f6 or something, and then go knight f3. Then later, after bishop e6, I could think about going f5 takes and then knight h4, trying to control some light squares. But I don't think it was too convincing. And also f5 here doesn't feel so great. If bishop h6, I still feel like f6 is a solid move for him. So here I would definitely had to show a lot more ingenuity to create some play, and it's clear it has to happen over on the king side, because this is where I got all my pieces, and I've already advanced the pawn to f4. Anyway, he went b5, which I feel is not great. Fe, I take the chance of improving my control over the center. He does get a pretty nice outpost on e5 for his knight, but this one is not going to be there forever. Eventually, it's going to be driven away by d4. Naturally, at the moment, d4 is met by knight c4, winning this or exchanging this important bishop. So that's not going to happen. But I go bishop h6, and it's all part of the same plan. I'm trying to control the center so that I will have a free hand at attacking his king. And as you can see in the game, it all works quite beautifully. Knight to c6. Here it's already hard to give him any great advice, since my position is sort of playing itself. At the moment, once again, it doesn't look impressive. My bishop on g2 is not great, and for the moment he has good control over the center, but it's really hard for him to find a plan. And as you can see in the game, it all did flow quite smoothly for white. He went queen d8, decided that the queen was misplaced over there. Rook a to d1. overprotecting d4. In the case I'm gonna advance pretty soon. Rook c8, queen e2. I'm now intending d4 without allowing him either a tempo for knight c4 or knight g4, exchanging this knight. Now I'm threatening d4, and this knight will not only be driven away once, but it will be driven away once again with b3 once it reaches c4. And another point of this was to provoke what happens in the game, which is h5, d4, cd, cd, knight g4, h3. And it turns out that h5 is probably a bigger weakening of the queen side, of the king side, than it looks. And here you can see that I've gained a lot of control over the center. There are suddenly attacking options like bringing the knight to d5, then to f6, maybe later the queen to f4, g5. And all of a sudden I have a great position in the center and an attack without without actually sacrificing material, which is, as I mentioned many times in this series, something that I love to do. Knight to e7, very logical, protecting against knight d5, and I went rook d3. Move that was, at least to me, fairly aesthetically pleasing. Preparing rook to f3, or also preparing to swing the rook all the way over to the h file after playing g4. He went b4, and now rook to f3, preventing the threat of bishop b5. Obviously, now after bishop b5, I don't really know whether knight h5 works. It looks like it should just win on the spot, to be honest. Takes, and then king h6, rook f6 is going to be mate. King h8, queen h5 is also going to be a very quick mate. So it looks like it does indeed lose on the spot. But my point was that even if rook e1, something like this, g4 is coming, his king side is going to be blown open anyway, and I preserve all of the positional advantages of my position. But he correctly decided to go queen e8 instead. Here I had the possibility of playing simply d5, which I remember that this was my first intention. I guess I decided against it because I felt like winning a pawn on the queen side, which it looks like I do by force. For instance, a5, I can do queen b6, attacking both a5 and d6. Maybe I felt that it was a bit too cheap a way to give away my attacking chances here. And as far as I can remember, I really wanted to win the game in attack, which is why I went g4 instead, which I believe is also a very strong move. Now he took, and I took. And these openings of files usually favor the side with the more space. And in this case, with these pawns on d4 and e4, that's I'm clearly the one who has the space advantage. Queen h4 is now looking like a very strong threat, and he quite correctly went bishop b5, But now still I got just rook e1, and even though my rook has been driven away from the f file, it's not the end of the world. Queen h4 is still an idea, and as you can see from the game, I've got others as well. Queen d8 happened, and g5. And now I'm threatening bishop h3, taking more control over the f6 square, and it's really quite difficult for him. As far as I can remember during the game, one of the lines that I looked at was knight c6, attacking g5. I just wanted to go rook g3, intending knight to d5. If queen b6, I just go rook d1, and I retain all of the advantages of my position. Instead, he went queen g5, queen b6. I went bishop h3, attacking the rook, rook c d8. Now a little trick, finally bringing this formerly dormant bishop into the game by bishop to e6. Obviously cannot take it, because then I go knight e6, winning everything. Now threatening knight h5, I'm threatening bishop f7, so with collapse coming on f7 in either case. So we went bishop bishop e8, knight d5 was the conclusion, takes, and now bishop d5, and he simply resigned here. It's really a sad position for black now. There are basically no pieces that he can move, and I have a bunch of ways to possibly decide the game. I have rook h3, followed by queen h4. I have king g2 followed by rook h1. I have rook f1 coming, and yeah, it's all over positionally, and also his king is weak. So I think this game is a good example of when you win the fight for the center, that is often when you can build up an attack without allowing a lot of counterplay and without actually sacrificing stuff. Yes, at one point I did sacrifice a pawn with g3, but it was not that hard to see that in case of h3, bishop g4, I would have had rook g3, and the attack rages on. Then there were tricks like if queen d7, then bishop h3 could be very, very strong. So I really didn't have to sacrifice much. It was all about taking control over the center, bringing the pieces to the king side, gaining more and more space and positional advantages. And as you can see from the final position, there is no one move threat, but my advantage is just so huge that he has no counterplay and no defense in the slightly longer run.